In the race to build the next generation of AI, we all just assume the fastest, scrappiest startups are going to win. It makes sense, right? But what if I told you that's completely wrong? Today, we're diving into a really counterintuitive idea. In this new world of what's called agentic AI, it's the slow and steady tortoise that's probably going to beat the hare. It turns out, maturity, not speed, could be the real competitive advantage.
So let's just start with that big, juicy question. When you picture the next massive AI breakthrough, who pops into your head? Is it some nimble startup burning the midnight oil in a garage? Or is it one of the massive tech giants? The answer, as you're about to see, is probably not who you think.
Yeah, the answer isn't obvious because the old playbook? It's totally obsolete. This new race isn't a 100-meter dash. It's an ultramarathon. It's not about who gets off the starting line first. It's about who has the endurance and the structure to actually finish the race. Let's get into it.
To really get what's happening here, you have to realize this isn't just a slightly faster, slightly smarter version of the AI we're used to. No, this is a completely new game with a whole new set of rules. Let's call it the Agentic AI test.
The old playbook was pretty simple, right? The main thing was speed and experimentation. You'd build cool demos, and you always had humans in the loop to act as a safety net to catch any mistakes. But the new reality of agentic AI, it flips all that on its head. Now, the priority is safety and consistency, because that human safety net we've always relied on, it's about to be removed.
So what exactly is agentic AI? Well, think of it this way. This is an AI that doesn't just predict or recommend, it actually plans, it decides, and it acts all on its own. And here's the part that changes everything. It effectively removes the human safety net. Every single check, every balance that used to be a person's job now has to be built right into the system's DNA.
And that brings us to the core mantra for this new era. It's a really powerful idea. Autonomy must be earned, not just enabled. It's not about flipping a switch and letting the AI run wild. It's about earning that trust, step by step. And here's the kicker. Earning it has almost nothing to do with how clever your AI model is, and everything to do with how mature your entire organization is.
Okay, so if maturity is the new key to winning, what does that mean for the traditional frontrunners, the startups? Well, let's dig into why these companies, despite all their speed and agility, might actually be at a huge disadvantage here.
We all know the classic startup strengths. They are built from the ground up to move incredibly fast, to have a laser-like focus on one problem, and to iterate like crazy. And look, these are the exact qualities that let them build these amazing agentic systems in the first place. But here's the twist. The moment those systems are ready to act on their own, those very strengths can suddenly become massive liabilities.
And why is that? Because true, responsible autonomy isn't just about being smart, it's about being durable. It has to be reliable, predictable, and trustworthy every single time. And startup environments, they're often built on informal processes and the heroic efforts of just a few key people. They just don't have the deep structural foundation you need when an AI is making critical decisions without a human to double-check.
Just think about it. The moment an AI touches real-world outcomes, we're talking customer data, financial transactions, anything important, the questions get really serious, really fast. Who's accountable? Who approved this action? How do we audit its decisions? And maybe the most important question of all, how do we pull the plug right now? Startups might have answers on a whiteboard, but they rarely have the proven, battle-tested systems to handle this at scale. And that's where their speed advantage just evaporates.
And this right here is the great inversion. This is where the whole script gets flipped. All those things we used to see as weaknesses of big, mature companies, their processes, their governance, their so-called bureaucracy, suddenly become their greatest assets in the age of agentic AI.
Think about all that stuff people usually complain about in a large organization. The red tape. Well, guess what? Those are the very systems that agentic AI needs to function safely. Having clear lines of ownership, proven ways to escalate problems, and formal risk management, that's not friction anymore. Those are the essential guardrails for autonomy.
And this is the absolute winning mindset. The winners in this space won't act like startups and try to find clever ways to bypass their own governance. No way. They'll use their maturity as a design input from day one. The question isn't, how do we get rid of these controls? It's, how do we adapt our proven controls for an autonomous world?
So you get this clear contrast. Startups often run on individual heroics, one brilliant founder making a gut call in a split second. But Agentic AI requires something totally different. It needs durable systems where accountability is baked into the process itself, so it's not just resting on one person's shoulders when things go wrong.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the why maturity is the key. But what about the how? I mean, how do you actually implement this safely without, blowing things up? Well, there's a clear playbook for this, and it's called progressive autonomy.
Progressive autonomy isn't some big, scary, all-or-nothing switch you just flip. That would be a disaster. Instead, it treats autonomy like a spectrum, or maybe a dimmer switch. You earn the right to slowly turn up that dimmer switch by proving, step by step, that you can align the technology with your governance and build real organizational trust.
So how does this actually work in practice? Well, you start small. At first, the AI just assists. It recommends things, but a human makes the final call. Once you build trust, you let it execute simple tasks, but only in a very controlled, low-risk way. Next, you grant it more freedom, but with crystal-clear guardrails. And finally, you can reach a state of supervised autonomy, where your people are managing the system, not doing the individual task.
And that whole progression leads to this really crucial shift in the role of people. We move from being human in the loop, where you're involved in every single little task, to being human on the loop. The human isn't gone. Their job just evolves. They become the strategic overseer, focused on judgment, on supervision, and on intervening only when it matters most.
So, what's the big takeaway here? What does this all mean?
Well, it creates a brand new mandate for leadership, especially for the CIOs and tech leaders who are trying to guide their organizations through this massive shift. And this really gets to the heart of the new challenge for every leader. For years, the number one question was always a technical one. Can we build this cool thing? But now, the most important question is an organizational one. Are we, as a company, mature enough to live with the consequences when this thing acts on its own?
And that leaves every single leader with a final, defining question to take back to their teams. It's not about just rolling out AI everywhere all at once. It's about having the discipline to ask, where is autonomy safe for us today? And, just as importantly, what foundational work, what homework, do we need to do right now to make it safe in more critical areas tomorrow? The answer to that question, well, that's what will define the true winners of the agentic era.